drop it in the comments. We're going to be talking about getting into med school. So drop your comments or questions. Let's try that again. Drop your comments or questions for Dr. Matt here about medical school applications or acing the MCAT. All right. And let me leave a little guide comment here. Welcome in, guys. Drop Dr. Matt your questions here about getting into medical school, the MCAT, and more. Hi, guys. Welcome in. All right. Thank you for sharing the live. Kunchkana, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I am not real says, what about getting an F in Gen Chem 2 for cheating? You know, that one's going to be a little bit of a challenge. You know, we are always happy to talk about how to improve on the grade frontier. Obviously the challenge with having a grade like that isn't just the F, it's the fact that kind of is one of those like red flag events for AdCom. So definitely avoid anything that gets you any kind of historical remarks about conduct review for you know, not doing your own test or something. That is definitely something that you're probably going to freak some people out about. All right, guys, drop those comments and questions here. I'll tell you what, while we are waiting for people to jump on in with the questions, I'm not real says, is it over? Are you asking if so? Okay, so to put nuance on it, if we're just talking about, you know, how likely it is that that an admissions committee is going to freak out about that, the answer, for probably pretty obvious reasons, it is going to be just that it's pretty high, right? Like that's going to definitely be something where the admissions committee is, you know, they're responsible for helping people get into to med school who they're confident are going to be, you know, they are confident they're going to be good doctors and reliable and you know, not get in trouble for medical ethics or a testing issue. So I think that'd be complicated. Now, the question there, of course, is if there was some kind of circumstances where like the accusation was like not true, like a professor gets like 7 exams where everyone misses the 4th and 5th question, and then the professor's like, well, hey, I don't think you should have all missed the same one. That kind of scenario is one where you would actually want to discuss that with AdComs in your you know, in your app, like in your secondaries. If you're like, hey, I had good grades, but there was this one thing and it was some weird circumstances and I didn't actually have any kind of, you know, academic concern, ethical concern, that can be a little bit different. And you got to kind of navigate those carefully. Next one says, Thibaut Courtois, you know, the World Cup is rocking and rolling. Hopefully Thibaut does good, but also, you know, hopefully the USA team does well despite, right? You know, got to root for the doppelganger. All right. Next one says, is UNMC a good medical school or no? So I try. Thank you, Platinum. Thank you for the question. Someone says, are you a doctor or a chiropractor? Let me put this in here because this is a totally fair question. I should say this. Ask Dr. Matt, MD, about becoming a doctor. So we're talking about becoming a medical doctor here, guys. So thanks for the clarification there. All right. So the comment, the question, Platinum, about is UNMC a good med school? I try not to comment a lot on like individual med schools because I don't think it's really super fair as long as they are LCME, as long as they're LCME regulated, licensed schools. They're accredited by, the Commission on Medical Education. Like, you're gonna have to pass the same boards. I don't think you have that much to worry about. If the school culture matches what you're looking for, then there's just lots and lots of options. Like, I think people think a little bit too much about like where they're going to go, unless there's a specific reason you want to go to a particular school. Like if they're a school that like that specifically serves a population that you want to serve in, or a specialty you want to serve in, or if they do rural medicine, you always want to do that, or urban medicine, you always want to do that, or if they do research on dermoplasty or something, and that's what you wanted to do, then you can get a little bit more picky. Or if there's like a regional thing. I have some students right now who, I have a handful of students right now who are working with me on their MCAT and their applications, and they're specifically looking to only apply to one or two local schools in a particular area. So they're really not concerned as much with the curriculum or faculty at the school as they are with like being in a particular part of the country. And so they're all relevant reasons, right? It's what's important to you. Next one says, any tips for remembering the etiology of hyponatremia? So in my opinion, and maybe you might differ on this, but in my opinion, the sort of physiological and physiochemical dysregulation states are some of the most logical parts of physiology and pathophys. If you have any questions about sort of the driver for different kinds of hyponatremia, you can almost always figure it out based on understanding how like ionic flow works and how things flow up and down gradients. What happens if you correct a hyponatremia too quickly? Well, you think about where the fluid is going to go when you replace it, and whether you're doing fluid repletion with hypersaline or hyposaline solution. It's really reasonable. Unless you have some concerning gaps in like general chemistry or something, it makes a lot of sense. It's pretty cool. Next one says, what kind of specialty opportunities are there for someone who wants to do hands-on work with sports? So you will probably be looking at something like orthopedic surgery if you want to do more in the OR, and you might be looking at something like PMNR if you are looking almost more of like a medical version of a PT. So if you want to be outside the OR, you can of course do some there. I think you can even do something like emergency medicine and then do like a sports medicine fellowship or something like that. There's some fun options out there. Next one, answered that one. Next one says, did you always think you were going to be a physician? Did you ever have any other career goals? So I definitely was not one of the, sort of like, I dreamed of being a physician for 20 years, students. In large part just because, I grew up I'm a first generation college graduate. And so I didn't grow up, with physicians in the family. I didn't grow up, with educational mentors who were like, hey, if you like this particular sort of interaction with patients, and if you enjoy science, and if you like reasoning about the way that the human body works, then medicine could be a good option. That kind of thing was not something that I encountered until I was in my 20s, and I was already working as a mathematician. And then I encountered that, and I realized that was actually a pretty cool thing to do with your life, and went there and pivoted as a non-traditional. So next one says, what are some good ways to get clinical hours? Thank you guys so much for getting us to 100 likes. Let's tap that like a few more times. I always appreciate it. Appreciate the share so we can help out as many pre-meds as we can. And thank you for all the awesome questions. Don't forget, if you are new here, my name is Dr. Matt. I am the founder of MCATboss.com. And if you have questions, you can drop them here. If you need help personally with the MCAT or applications, you can drop me a line. Just go to MCATboss.com. And I also have an incredibly simple, just super, super simple email, which is just matt@MCATboss.com. Next one says, Get clinical hours. Okay, sorry. So what are some good ways to get clinical hours? There's a couple different things to think about with the clinical hours. And one of them, yay, thank you for going crazy on the like button there, guys. One of the ways that you need to be thinking about clinical hours is you can get some sort of introductory level clinic jobs. You can scribe, you can work as, an office assistant in like a physician's clinic. There's a variety of different roles that you can do in larger hospitals. The other thing for clinical hours is shadowing. This is not a paid thing. You're not really volunteering either, right? Like this isn't where you're helping somebody who needs help or you're helping a charity. With shadowing, you're basically asking a physician, can I hang out with you? Can I literally shadow you and be your shadow for, a few hours a day for a week or two, or a couple hours a week for several months, right? You want to get into that triple digit range on the shadowing if you can. We have a question that says, what do you think about the PA profession? So the PA profession, for those of you guys who are kind of new to the medical landscape, these are physician assistants, and they're kind of on the practitioner scale in regards to the level of independence and the scope of practice. They're kind of in between a nurse and a physician. And I think that mid-level providers are really awesome. I think there's a lot of confusion over sort of how they bill and what kind of prescriptions they're allowed to do, what kind of medical evaluations they're allowed to do. There's honestly quite a bit of confusion over the scope of practice and like what is for a PA and what is for a doctor to do. But because we have such a severe physician shortage, I think it is a really important one. Now, the kicker with PAs, and let me make sure I leave this up here because I know it's faster for me to do this than to try to DM everybody afterwards, is just mcatboss.com if you need to reach me for help with any sort of individual test prep or anything like that. But yeah, sorry. The thing with PA is, I think you guys, if any of you guys are kind of undecided that you want to practice medicine, but you're not entirely sure what kind of medicine you want to practice or what level of practitioner you want to do, or you're not sure how much school you want to do, right? And you're like, I'm going to do grad school. I'm going to go become some kind of practitioner afterwards. But I don't want to be a nurse, but I'm in between becoming a physician and becoming like a physician assistant. Just keep in mind, school is shorter as a PA, and it doesn't take as long to become a practicing PA. The compensation is pretty good. But the surprising thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is PA school is really hard to get into now. The acceptance rate is actually lower for PA school right now than it is for MD school. So do keep in mind that the application field, it is a little bit easier in the sense that you don't have to take the MCAT to apply to PA school. And the MCAT is quite a beast, right? And like hours a day, I tutor people and I help them with the MCAT. I'm one of the most experienced MCAT tutors in the country, but the MCAT is not needed to get into PA school, but in part because of that, the PA application system is pretty darn flooded. And so just keep in mind, it's not, getting in is not a walk in the park. What is PM&R? Oh, so this is like, it's, the best that I can describe it is that it is, the best that I can describe it is that it is kind of, it's a cross between being a sports doc and a physical therapist. And I don't know if there's any PM&R docs specialists in the comments. Somebody can probably give a better description than that. But I'll let you kind of sift through a couple example like follow-up PM&R docs on YouTube, and you'll have a better idea of what I mean by that. Will says, does being a paramedic in a 911 system for a few years help? Guys, thank you so much for all the questions. I'm so sorry. I will catch up. I'm very, very thankful that everybody's dropping those questions. I will try to answer a little bit shorter and get through all of these. Thank you guys so much for your patience. Will says, does being a paramedic in a 911 system for a few years help? Yes, Will, you do get to count those hours, generally speaking, as like patient contact clinic hours. Now, once you get over a few thousand hours of sort of patient contact clinical hours, the difference between a student who's volunteered for a couple of years and a student who's been like an applicant who's been like a paramedic for a decade isn't really that much, right? Because they don't want to bias the system towards only accepting career changers, right? So people who are like shifting from one part of healthcare to another would have an unfair advantage if they overly emphasize that you can get in because of how many clinic hours you have. So it doesn't help you a whole lot. Andrea says is watching videos, Professor Iman Youssef Hassan, etc. Good for MCAT content review instead of books. So Andres, in terms of just sort of refamiliarizing yourself with the terminology, with the ideas, with the processes, with the reactions, with the general content, it's totally fine to watch a video course instead of doing books. But the thing I really have to emphasize though is that it doesn't actually matter which type of passive content review you do if you don't do active content review. I get lots of MCAT students every single year who did lots and lots, sometimes 3 or 4 months of videos or books or courses, and they didn't do any practice problems until their last month of study, and then they realized they can't get their MCAT score very high without that. So Halom was asking a question. I do ask, it does tend to go a little bit faster if you can drop it in the comments. Dana says, were you a math professor? So I actually ran a university physics lab. And then I was a math teacher, and then I was an actual mathematician. So I was a Google Networks quantitative analyst, in the private world. So handling, big data sets, tons and tons of money, and getting to use math to do some cool stuff. Welcome in, guys, on the YouTube side. Welcome in. Happy birthday, Shay. All right, guys. All right, next one says, let me see. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for all the questions. Next one says, is 1,500 hours of clinical experience good? Yes, that's a great number. Amir says, just submitted my NYU secondary. Amir, good luck. It's exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking when you're getting those secondaries in to see, where things go and what happens next. That is awesome. Next one says, how can I get into shadowing? Like, as a physician, how would you want to be approached for shadowing? Okay, so the easiest way is if you have an interest in either primary care or a particular specialty that a doctor practices in, the easiest thing to do really truly is to just ask, right? Either ask the physician or call their office staff and tell them, hey, this is my name. I'm a pre-med and I would like to shadow Dr. Bob or whoever, right? And let them know you're just wondering if you can come for a few hours in the afternoon a few times, or can I come a couple hours a week for a month or two. Let them know kind of a broad scope of like, one of these things would be helpful to me. Is it too much trouble? Can you ask the doctor? And some doctors genuinely they're too busy, right? Like, there are doctors who genuinely should probably not be trying to have anybody shadow them because they're crazy busy and they have just utterly insane schedules and back-to-back patients every 14 minutes. And there are some specialties where it's a little bit harder to have a shadow and some specialties where it's really easy to have a shadow. And, the best thing you can do is ask. And the boldest thing you can do for your career is to just get used to asking. So just start to ask. All right, Takwa says, when is the best time to begin MCAT studying? Okay, that is a good question. This is actually a question. Erlin, I'm so sorry if you asked a question there. Sorry if I missed it. I don't think I've even gotten to your question yet. I'm sorry. There's so many, but I will try to get to there. About the best time to study. So there's a couple different things to think about, whether you're traditional or non-traditional. I get asked this question so much. I actually am adding a, email me to get my little PDF for free on when to take the MCAT because of how often I get this. I will try to put up that edition of the website in the next 24 hours, but just mcatboss.com. You guys can always email me there as well. But generally speaking, the best time to take the MCAT if you are in undergrad is in your third year. That way you have time to study long enough, be done with your prerequisites, but also be taking it early enough in case you do end up having to retake it. If you are non-traditional, you just need to plan to take it 6 to 9 months after you start studying. Erlin says, interviewing for a derm MA position. It's competitive, but no derm experience. How do I stand out? Okay. So with derm, that is one area where, that is one area where from the multiple, derm residents that I know, I just have been told that it's valuable to get experience in derm when you can, and to show interest in research topics that derm people care about. So that can often mean, getting into volunteering with clinical research in dermatology, with wet lab research in dermatology. The students that I know who successfully got into dermatology residency oftentimes had a number of different research projects that were derm related that they got involved in. Next one says, I just finished first year. I got in with a 494, finished top of my class, felt like an imposter. Awesome. Good job. Will I stand out as an applicant, or if I get my clinical hours as an RN, or is it worse to be an RN? For seasoned, it's a little bit of a tap dance when you have a student who's applying, who has been a nurse, who wants to become a doctor. Now, it's not a bad thing, right? It's something that happens. I have multiple classmates who, got in, who were RNs and became MDs. I have a buddy who just graduated med school, who is on his way along in a very prestigious residency, and he was a absolute just baller, awesome, capable, confident, really, really just great student in med school. And he was an RN for 3 or 4 years before deciding that he didn't want to pause there. He wanted to keep going, right? He wanted to become a doctor. And that worked out really well for him. The thing you have to just keep in mind is you need to be able to give a really clear story about why you wanted to become an RN and why you feel like practicing. Sorry, let me say that. Let me start again. You need to be able to give a really clear narrative of why you don't want to stay in RN. You want to become an MD or a DO instead. And you need to be able to do it in a way that is reasonable and understanding and respectful of nurses, but also shows them that you want to do medical school, and that it's a lot more, and you're up for it, and it's the goal that you can't live without, kind of thing, and that you understand the steps to get there. Next one says, thank you for the info. Thank you so much. And next one says, been an optometric pretester and doing clinical research in nephrology. Oh, okay. You're saying just how can you, Erlen, is your question more related to, I might be misunderstanding your question. Is your question just more related to are there things that you can talk about during an interview? Please feel free to clarify. Next time. Okay. Next one says, being an NP for 20 years won't help me. So again, I think that anytime you're coming from a long-term career in medicine, you can totally bridge that if you have a good sort of narrative around it. And micro pitch here, but again, if you're in the application arena right now and you need help, drop me a line at mcatboss.com, because I would say probably like 80% of the students that I work with every week are working on the MCAT specifically, but about 20% of them are working on like how to narrate their life in a personal statement, where to apply, what kind of reach out letters should they be sending to med schools, things like that. Katrina says, how can I understand the adaptive immune system completely? But how can I understand the adaptive immune system completely, but can't get the complement cascade? So Katrina, that's totally reasonable. The complement cascade, even in the complicated version that you tend to learn when you're studying the MCAT or when you're studying for your preclinical years of med school, even as complicated as it feels, that is actually a cartoonishly oversimplified version, because the way that the complement cascade evolved really truly reflects the very aggressive sort of immunological and hematological evolution. It is really complicated. If you ever look up a complete complement cascade diagram from like an actual science journal, it's really, really complicated. And it's not because we're used to ideas that the body and the physiology are connected in a way that an engineer would design it, where it's like very, very orderly and there's this step leading to that step and it makes sense and it's mapped and it's simple. And that's not how biology works, right? Because essentially your body's made up of all of these adaptations that kind of added up over the many years. So it can be very messy. Thank you guys for the follows. Thanks for helping us get those likes up. Next one says, I got accepted into a post-bac program that preps me for the MCAT. What can I do now? I start July. Okay. Hancho, thank you for the question. I'll give you kind of a really quick answer. And then guys, if you can, drop any other questions you have in the next like 3 minutes. I'm going to try to kind of blast through any other questions in the next few minutes. And then I do have to wrap up here in just a second. So go ahead and, drop a line and, but yeah, drop any other questions you have here. Okay. Post-bac. My main issue with post-bac is this. A lot of times students will, they'll kind of pump the brakes if they're about to, for example, I have students, I'll just be super transparent with you guys. I have students who will spend $3,000, $6,000, $10,000 with me on MCAT prep and not think twice about it, because the alternative that they're avoiding is a post-bac that they'll spend 20, 30, 40, in one case, $80,000 on a post-bac. And most of the post-bac is oriented towards you just getting credit for sitting through classes and getting some GPA credit for that. And most post-bacs, just to be frank with you, they don't actually do that much to prepare you for the MCAT compared to working like one-on-one with a specialist. They just don't do that much. So if you are thinking between the value of working with like an MCAT expert and the value of working on a post-bac, it tends to be faster and significantly cheaper, even if you're dropping thousands of dollars by working with an MCAT expert, than it does to spend like $20,000 or $30,000 on a or 40,000, or my poor students who are out there in New York who are spending 80 grand on a post-bac, and then they're only scoring like 2 points higher on the MCAT. So beware. The main thing is, if you are going through post-bac, you got to get your GPA as close to a 4.0 as you can, or it's a waste of your time to do post-bac. And if you're doing a 1-year post-bac, you have to be studying the entire time for the MCAT. If you again, drop me a line if you want to talk about kind of the schedule to do that. Guys, also on MCATboss.com, you'll see I'm doing just for the summer, I'm doing a $600 self-study course where it's 3 hours of me basically blasting through how I self-studied my way to close to a 100th percentile score on the MCAT, including 200th percentile sections. But like you really, 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 you gotta be hitting the MCAT really hard during a post-bac, or it can end up actually backfiring pretty badly on your wallet. So beware. Okay. Erlen says, I do clinical research in nephrology. Super cool. Nephrology research is awesome. I have research in head and neck cancers and brain metastasis. Super, super cool. Okay. Sounds like you have a really great research background. I'm sorry if I didn't understand the question about the derm thing, but if you can drop me a follow-up and I will try to get to that. Sorry says, Dr. Man, I currently finished MPH, going to work as a clinical research coordinator. Do you think I should start studying for the MCAT first by doing diagnostic tests? Also, Mom, sorry, congrats on finishing the MPH. Major props. Secondly, I do recommend doing a diagnostic test just once and then pausing on your sort of like diagnostic exam prep until you do a question bank. That's sort of the general gist of it. Drop me a line if I can help you. I really, really enjoy helping people who are non-traditional. So I can help you kind of plan out your self-study. But it is important to take a diagnostic test so you have a ballpark of what it looks like. After that, don't even think about flowing tests until you have done a question bank. Erlen says, like, how do I be competitive as a medical assistant if my clinical experience has been in a different specialty? I think, honestly think that for a medical assistant position, a lot of it has to do with like personality. A lot of times when clinics are hiring an MA, they're looking for somebody who makes their patients feel good, because that is the biggest player in how people leave you reviews on Google. And so I would say it is probably more important to just come across like you have a super friendly personality and that you're going to put a smile on people's faces. And then I would worry about the more detailed stuff about research later on, because that's where you can sort of navigate like med school or residency apps. Next one says, were you a nurse before this? No, I was a mathematician before this. 100%. Yeah. So Erlen, drop a line, MCATboss.com. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I will read out those last couple questions super quick. Let me just leave this on here. You can always, you can book me at MCATboss.com. You can also email if you just want to do like a couple hours, sort of like a la carte booking, just email me directly. And I do set people up with discounts, especially if you book like same day or the following day from a live. I do try to help people out with that. Next one says, I'm in the military, which is free, but I'm required to join, just waiting to start. Okay. That's awesome, man. So if you are getting the post-bac paid for, then by all means, man, like knock it out of the park. Just don't wait to study for the MCAT until it's too late. Get on it as soon as you can. Okay. If I can help anybody else out, drop me a line, Matt at MCATboss.com. I do check email around 10 minutes after the live, and I try to get back to everybody within about 10 minutes of the live. So if you drop me a message tonight, just let me know that you were on there so I can make sure that you guys get the like same day booking discount or whatever. And I will try to help you guys out. Erlen says you hold lectures for the MCAT or what type exactly? So real quick on that. Let me just explain real fast before we wrap it up. So my students tend, and I will kind of, in fact, I'll write this out on screen here for just a second. My students tend to do sort of two paths, right? One of them is they want like sort of comprehensive guidance. And these are students who are working with me for like 30 to like 50 hours or more. MCAT or even MCAT plus app guidance. For students who are trying to, save, the other option, the like self-study training is really straightforward. It is a 3-hour live class, and it is $600. This is a summer thing I'm only offering right now during the summer. But this is kind of the let me make sure that is visible on screen there. These are kind of the two main, why is this on two different lines? There we go. Hopefully that helps it be a little bit more visible. Yeah. So these are my students almost entirely break into these two categories, right? It's either they just want to learn how to study on their own and they really don't want to drop the multiple thousands of dollars with Kaplan or with me, right? And so they tend to go for the 3-hour live class. And then the other option, the students who are like, the budget is not the issue. I just want to have somebody who is there to walk me from like square one to square 100. And that is the first option. And there's like package options and stuff. But yeah, the very last option is if you have just like a really specific thing and you just need to be like, hey, can I like talk with you for 1 hour? I do let students also book like just a single hour and stuff. So just email, and I will leave it up for just like one more minute here. MCATboss.com. And I am Dr. Matt, and thank you guys so much for joining me tonight, and thank you for all of the questions. And I am so sorry, YouTube. Oh my goodness, why is the TikTok cute questions were coming so fast. I didn't even see everybody over there on YouTube. Sorry about that, guys. Do join me next time, and we'll jump into it, and I will get back to everybody